Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. We are here to discuss to you our topic, bioelectronics and its application. And we are the group 6 of BIO20-1, an introduction to bioelectronics, section C1, students of Mapua Institute of Technology. Before we get started, again we are the group 6, which is composed of Ezekiel Balyari, myself, Roland Martinez, Miguel Cambao, Terence Serrano, and Carl Villanueva. So before we get started, we will define what is bioelectronics. So what is bioelectronics means? According to the definition, bioelectronics is the application of the principles of electronics to biology and medicine. And another definition, bioelectronics is the discipline resulting from the convergence of biology and electronics. It has the potential to significantly impact many areas important to the nation's economy and well-being, including healthcare and medicine, homeland security, forensics, and protecting the environment and the food supply. So, we can say that bioelectronics is the application of electronics to the medical fields, forensics for investigations. So just a brief background and applications. The first reference to bioelectronics was published in 1912. It was focused on measurement of electrical signals generating by the body, which is the basis of electrocardiogram. So that is the ECG. And in 1960s, the new trends in bioelectronics began to appear. One trend enabled by the invention of the transistor, centered on development of implantable electronic device and system to stimulate organs. So for example, the pacemaker. Bioelectronics focuses on physically interfacing electronic device with biological systems. These are the examples, the brain machine, cell electrode or protein electrode, and applications in the area includes assistive technology for individuals with brain-related disease or injuries such as paralysis, artificial retinas, and new technologies for protein structure function measurements. We are going to give you some of the bioelectronics and modern applications. The first one is the implantable Cardioverter Defibrillator. Okay, so this is a device for the heart. What is an implantable Cardioverter Defibrillator? Okay, we can see here an ICD device. You can see the parts of the ICD device. This is the lead and this is the pulse generator. The lead is the wire that sends impulses from the pulse generator to the heart, as well as sends the heart's electrical activity, and each impulses causes the heart to contract. And then the powerhouse or the pulse generator, it houses the battery and a tiny computer. So we can see here other examples of ICD. There is a single chamber ICD. There is also a dual chamber ICD and a biventricular device. So we can see here a picture of the ICD or implantable Cardioverter Defibrillator implanted a patient. This is a comparison of ICD and pacemaker. This one is the ICD and this one is the pacemaker. They almost the same in the characteristics, but they are different in the functions. So who needs an implantable Cardioverter Defibrillator? Of course, it can be used to children, teens, and adults. Your doctor may recommend an ICD if you're at risk of for certain types of arrhythmia. So how does an implantable Cardioverter Defibrillator work? So this explains what is the function of the ICD. So first, an implantable Cardioverter Defibrillator or ICD has wires with electrodes on the ends that connect to one or more of your heart's chambers. These wires carry the electrical signals from your heart to a small computer in the ICD. The computer monitors your heart rhythm, and it records or it tracks all the activities and respond or reacts to normalize your heartbeat. The wires on an ICD connect to a small metal box implanted in the chest or abdomen. So this is the main component of the device. The box contains a battery, pulse generators, and small computer. So again, when the computer detects irregular heartbeats, it triggers the ICD pulse generator to send electrical pulses. Wires carry these pulses to the heart. The ICD also can record the heart's electrical activity and heart rhythms. The recordings can help your doctor fine-tune the programming of your ICD so it works better to correct irregular heartbeats. So what are the risks of having an implantable cardioverter defibrillator? In using ICDs, there are disadvantages, and these are the risks. Implantable cardioverter defibrillators can sometimes give electrical pulses or shocks that aren't needed. Some of the electrical pulses or shocks can occur, and the patient might have some problem with that. So the patient need to check again with the doctor to calibrate the device. A damaged wire or a very fast heart rate due to extreme physical activity may trigger unnecessary pulses. These pulses also occur if you forget to take your medicines. So meaning you need to take your medicines even if you have ICD, and extreme physical activities can trigger unnecessary pulses. So children tend to be more physically active than adults. Thus, younger people who have ICD are more likely to receive unnecessary pulses than older people. Others, pulses sent too often at the wrong time can damage the heart or trigger an irregular, sometimes dangerous heartbeat. They also can be painful and upsetting. So again, if it's not calibrated properly, or there is something wrong with the device, it may also damage your heart. If that happens, your doctor can reprogram your ICD or prescribe medicine to unnecessary pulses or less of. Risk related to surgery. So although rare, some ICD risks are related to surgery used to place the device. So this risk includes swelling, bruising, or infection at the area where the ICD was placed, and bleeding from the site where the ICD was placed, blood vessels, heart or nerve damage, a collapsed lung, a bad reaction to the medicine used to make you relax or sleep during the surgery. Some surgical risks may occur. People who have ICDs may be at high risk for heart failure. Okay, although rare, an ICD may not work properly. So if these problems occur, it can damage your heart. The other one, the longer you have an ICD, the more likely it is that you'll have some of the related risks. So what are the benefits of having an implantable cardioverter defibrillator or ICD? So an ICD works well at detecting and stopping certain life-threatening arrhythmias. So an ICD can work better than drug therapy at preventing sudden cardiac arrest depending on the cause of the arrest. And an ICD can cure heart disease, however, it can lower the risk of dying from sudden cardiac arrest. These are the two main benefits of ICD.
Hi, I'm Ezekiel Simalyari, and I'll be presenting about the e-nose, or the electronic nose. For an introduction, smell is the powerful factor in our sensation of flavors, and so can often be used alone to profile the flavor of various products. The sense of smell arises from the stimulation of the human olfactory system by odorant molecules emitted from an object. For the history of electronic nose, scientist Alexander Graham Bell popularized the notion that it was difficult to measure a smell. In 1914, he said, "Did you ever measure a smell? Can you tell whether one smell is just twice strong as another? Can you measure the difference between two kinds of smell and another?" it is very obvious that we have many different kinds of smell, all the way from the odor of violets and roses up to the asafoetida, but until you can measure their likeness and differences, you can have no science of odor. If you are ambitious to find a new science, measure a smell. With this, the science about sense of smell got broadened, constructing electronics and electrical to be used. A brief description about electronic nose is that it is a device intended to detect odors or flavors. It is a system that uses pattern of responses from an array of a gas sensor to examine and identify a gaseous sample. The electronic nose was developed in order to mimic human olfaction that functions as a non-separative mechanism. Example, an odor or flavor is perceived as a global fingerprint. Essentially, the instrument consists of head space sampling, sensor array, and pattern recognition modules to generate signal pattern that are used for characterizing odors. The three major parts of the working principle of the electronic nose is that the first one is the sample delivery system. The sample delivery system enables the generation of the headspace or the volatile compounds of a sample, which is the fraction analyzed. The system then injects this headspace into the detection system of the electronic nose. The sample delivery system is essential to guarantee constant operating conditions. The second one is the detection system, which consists of a sensor set, is the reactive part of the instrument. When in contact with volatile compounds, the sensor reacts, which means they experience a change of electrical properties. The third one is the computing system. The computing system works to combine the responses of all of the sensors, which represents the input for the data treatment. This part of the instrument performs global fingerprint analysis and provides results and representations that can be easily interpreted. This next slide shows the electronic nose concept. In biological nose, it shows the location of the olfactory system in the human nose. The odorant molecules produced by the scented object are drawn up into the nasal cavity and across the olfactory area, which is the epithelium below the olfactory bulb as shown. Here shows a schematic diagram of the olfactory pathway from the epithelium to the brain. In electronic nose, here is a generic architecture of an electronic nose. With a specific odor is presented to the active material of a sensor, which converts a chemical input into an electrical signal. The requirement for the sensors in an electronic nose is that they have a partial sensitivity. Example, that they can respond broadly to a rank or class of gases rather than to a specific one. The individual sensors within the electronic nose produce a time-dependent electrical signal in response to the specific odor. The rise and decay time of the sensor signal will depend upon one or more of the parameters. Here are some uses of the electronic nose. It can detect cannabis on the human skin surface. They call it e-nose. The most commonly used drug testing methods are based on the analysis of hairs and urines using gas chromatography mass spectrometry, liquid chromatography mass spectrometry, or immunoassay screening. These methods are time-consuming and partly expensive. They have developed an e-nose to detect directly on the human skin surface metabolic changes in the human body odor caused by cannabis consumption. Another is it can identify different chemicals. For such emission, the gas mixture are very complex, and only their odor should be of interest and not their chemical composition. Environmental monitoring. The Department Environmental Monitoring at FUL applies the principle of the electronic nose equipped with tin oxide sensors to recognize and to monitor real-life malodorous in the environment and directly in the field. Here are my references for more research about electronic nose. Here are the article about detecting cannabis used on the human skin surface via an electronic nose system. Applying the electronic nose in the environment, requirements for the sensors. A brief history of electronic noses, the stereochemical theory of odor. And that's all. Thank you.
Another example of a bioelectronic device is the bioelectronic implant. Just a quick background about how biology and electronics work together through the years. Electronics technology has been applied to biology and medicine since the pacemaker was invented, with medical imaging industry. In 2009, a survey of publications using the term in title or abstract suggested that the center of activity was in Europe, which is 43%, followed by Asia, which is 23%, and the United States, which is 20%. As you all know, that delivering drugs to the spinal cord, where pain signals are relayed from the peripheral nervous system, is ultimately up to the brain. It is a desirable approach to quelling pain. But targeting agents to precise locations in that area has proved to be challenging, sometimes resulting in serious side effects. But now, researchers have developed a new bioelectronic device that delivers vastly lower doses of gamma aminobutyric acid, also known as GABA, the primary inhibitory neurotransmitter of the central nervous system, to specific areas of the spinal cord. Some of the researchers that handled these experiments are Daniel Simon from Linköping University, Norrköping, Sweden, and Bengt Linderoth from Karolinska Institute, Stockholm. This is the illustration of the device. For part A, you can see the actual photograph of the device. For part B, it's the schematic illustration where the different parts of the device are being depicted. And C, it's the depiction of the four outlets aligned with the sites where the sciatic nerves bundles enter the spinal cord. You can see that the actual device is inserted through the spinal cord. The new experimental device is an organic electronic ion pump assembled from plastic that conducts electricity. The handmade device was configured as a small reservoir leading to four delivery channels. As you can see, it is L3, L4, L5, and L6. Channel outlets were aligned with the four sites where the afferent sciatic nerve bundles enter the spinal cord so that GABA could be delivered directly to and bathe the synapses and receptors. Challenges for the future use. For pain treatment and other indications, researchers can caution that their prototype device remains many years removed from clinical use for several reasons. For example, people in pain, rather than using GABA itself, which activates both GABA A and GABA B receptor subtypes. A more selective molecule such as baclofen may be a better choice to avoid side effects, said Linderoth. It is important that the drug can be capable of being charged and not too large. Several molecules used in pain therapy will fit into the device, including baclofen, which is about twice the size of GABA, as well as opioids such as morphine. The researchers are working on expanding the repertoire of molecules that the device can deliver. Furthermore, the device will be needed to be as supple as a surrounding tissue. The experimental implant is made of flexible plastic akin to an overhead transparency, but softer material will likely be needed. They found that a similar fabricated implant used to help paralyzed rats walk again, resulting in motor deficits due to spinal cord injury, whereas the use of a softer material did not. In addition, the device used in the current study for rats will have to be engineered for human use by altering the size of delivery channels and in other ways. Increasing the lifetime of the device will also be necessary. The current findings also have implications beyond pain therapy, said Linderoth. He envisions that the same technology being adapted to deliver therapeutic molecules to targeted local areas in the brain for Alzheimer's diseases, Parkinson's disease, and epilepsy. The technology might replace implanted cells, releasing nerve growth factor that Linderoth said and his colleagues are testing in people with Alzheimer's to counter brain shrinkage and neuronal degeneration. For the references, therapy using implanted organic bioelectronics, Johnson A. Song Z, Nilsson D., Meyerson B. A., Simon D. T. Linderoth B., Berggren M. Science and Advances, the 8th of May 2015.
EMS, electronic muscle stimulation. EMS, also known as neuromuscular electrical stimulation or NMS, or electromyostimulation, is the elicitation of muscle contraction using electric impulses. EMS has received increasing attention in the last few years because of its potential to serve as a strength training for tool, healthy subjects, and athletes, a rehabilitation and preventive tool for partially or totally immobilized patients, a testing tool for evaluating the neural or muscular functions in vivo, a post-exercise recovery tool for athletes. These impulses are generated by a device and delivered through electrodes on the skin in direct proximity to the muscles to be stimulated. The impulses mimic the action potential coming from the central nervous system, causing the muscles to contract. The electrodes are generally pads that adhere to the skin. The use of EMS has been cited by sports scientists as a complementary technique for sports training, and published research is available on the results obtained in the United States. EMS devices are regulated by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. History of EMS. In 1761, Luigi Galvani provided the first scientific evidence that current can activate muscle. During the 19th and 20th centuries, researchers studied and documented the exact electrical properties that generated muscle movement. It was discovered that the body functions induced by electrical stimulation caused long-term changes in the muscles. In the 1960s, Soviet sports scientists applied EMS in the training of elite athletes, claiming 40% force gains. In the 1970s, these studies were shared during conferences with the Western sports establishments. However, results were conflicting, perhaps because the mechanisms in which EMS acted were poorly understood. Recent medical physiology research pinpointed that mechanisms by which electrical stimulation causes adaptation of cells, of muscles, blood vessels, and nerves. EMS. Strength training by EMS does not promote neural or muscular adaptations that are complementary to the well-known effects of voluntary resistance training. This statement is part of the editorial summary of 2010 World Congress of Researchers on the subject. Additional studies on practical applications which came after that Congress pinpointed out important factors that make the difference between the effective and ineffective EMS. This, in retrospect, explains why in the past, some researchers and practitioners obtained results that others could not reproduce. Also, as published by reputable universities, EMS causes adaptation. Indicated example, training of muscle fibers because of the characteristics of the skeletal muscle fibers. Different types of fibers can activate to differing degrees by different types of EMS, and the modifications induced depend on the pattern of EMS. These patterns, referred to as protocols or programs, will cause a different response from contraction of different fiber types. Some programs will introduce fatigue resistances, Indicated example, endurance. Others will increase force production. Uses of EMS. EMS can be used as a training, therapeutic, and cosmetic tool. In medicine, EMS is used for rehabilitation purposes, for instance, in physical therapy branch. In the prevention of disused muscle atrophy, which can occur, for example, after musculoskeletal injuries, such as damage to the bones, joints, muscles, ligaments, and tendons. This is distinct from transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulation or TENS, which is another type of EMS, but EMS is much more better than TENS, in which an electric current is used for pain therapy. Images of some of the uses of EMS. Here is the electrodes that is connected to the skin, which can also be used in other parts of the body like in femoral area. Thank you, that's all for EMS. My name is Terence Serrano, BIO20-1.
Hello, I'm Carl Joseph Villanueva, and I'm going to present a brief overview of a bioelectronic device that solely focuses on pacemakers. So what is a pacemaker? It is a small device that's placed in the chest or abdomen to help control abnormal heart rhythms. This device uses low energy electrical pulses to prompt the heart to beat at a normal rate. A pacemaker consists of a battery, a computerized generator, and wires with sensors called electrodes on one end. The electrodes detect your heart's electrical activity and send data through the wires to the computer and the generator. So what are the uses of pacemakers? It is used to treat arrhythmia. During an arrhythmia, the heart can be too fast, too slow, or with an irregular rhythm. Arrhythmias may be caused by many different factors, including coronary artery disease, electrolyte imbalances in your blood, changes in your heart muscle, injury from a heart attack, healing process after heart surgery, or irregular heart rhythms can also occur in normal, healthy hearts. Pacemakers can relieve some arrhythmia symptoms such as fatigue and fainting. A pacemaker also can help a person who has abnormal heart rhythms resume a more active lifestyle. Newer pacemakers can also monitor your blood temperature, breathing, and other factors and adjust your heart rate to changes in your activity. During surgery, placing a pacemaker requires minor surgery. The surgery usually is done in a hospital or special heart treatment laboratory. You'll be given medicine just before the surgery that will help you relax and make you sleepy. The surgery takes just few hours, but the patient will stay in the hospital overnight, so the healthcare team can check the heart and make sure the pacemaker is working properly. And after surgery, the doctor may ask the patient to avoid vigorous exercise or heavy lifting for about a month after your surgery. After you have fully recovered from surgery, discuss with your doctor how much and what kinds of physical activity are safe for you. And it actually varies with every patient. And once you have a pacemaker, you have to avoid close or prolonged contact with electrical devices or devices that have strong magnetic fields. You also need to avoid certain medical procedures that can disrupt your pacemaker. Pacemaker batteries last between 5 and 15 years depending how active your pacemaker is. The wires of your pacemaker also may need to be replaced eventually. Your doctor can tell you whether your pacemaker or its wires needs to be replaced. Complications from pacemaker surgery are rare, so most people can return to their normal activities within a few days. And that's the end of the presentation.